What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy, and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro The Black Series Sandtrooper from Episode 4, A New Hope. It's been a really long time since the Black Series has done a Sandtrooper in the line, and they have done it on the latest and greatest articulation and sculpting from the Black Series line, putting him on the newer Stormtrooper body. Now, there is a little bit of discourse within the community about what this should or should not look like. We'll get into that when we get this figure out of the box, but first, we gotta get him out of the box. So, before we take a closer look, I did pick this up as a pre-order through Big Bad Toy Store. That's the place I go to for most of my action figure orders and pre-orders. Highly recommend them. They are a great resource here in the US and a great smaller retailer at that. The Sandtrooper is a mainline release for the Black Series here in 2025, meaning you can find him at most of your major retailers, and he comes in the standard packaging for the line here in 2025. So on the front of the box here, you have the Black Series logo, your big plastic window showing you the figure and his accessories here. Over here in vertical text, you do have the character's name, as well as that he is number 12 in the subline for Episode 4, A New Hope. Below the window here, you have this banner in that bright orange color, again, representing that movie and the name of the movie there. We also have down here some of our logos and legalese. On this side of the box, we have our mural art here. So you can see our Sandtrooper here in the background. You can see another Sandtrooper with a dewback, and you can see the landing craft as well that they use on Tatooine. He's got his blaster in hand, character name down at the bottom here. On the back of the box, we have a lot of the same stuff we've already seen on the packaging, like Black Series logo, that same mural image we saw on the side of the box, blown up a bit, character name, and a bio in about 1,000 different languages. This bio reads, "Nicknamed Sandtroopers, these Stormtroopers are dispatched to desert worlds and wear armor augmented with cooling units, a helmet sand filter, and a survival backpack with extra rations and water." We reiterate, he is number 12 in the A New Hope subline. Down here we have all our legalese. Guys, please don't feed this action figure to your babies. On this side of the box, we have our wraparound window here, that banner, and the Black Series logo. On the bottom, even more legalese, and on the top, nothing. That about wraps it up for the packaging. So let's get this guy opened and we'll check him out. Alright guys, here's our Sandtrooper out of the box. Before we take a look at the figure, let's take a look at the accessories. We will start off with the iconic Sandtrooper backpack. So this is one of the details that makes the Sandtrooper stand out from the rest of the Imperial ranks, and especially in comparison to other basic Stormtrooper classes. The sculpting on this is really nice. You can see all the different pouches and doodads all over it here. It's got some nice paint and some white. Looks like some kind of off-white here, and then in this nice grayish blue color. I think this has enough paint apps on it, although I would like to see it dirtied up and match the rest of the figure here, but it's whatever at the end of the day. And then on this side here, you can see the peg that goes into the figure's back. And then on a piece of flexible plastic here, you have the ammo pouch, which hangs over the Sandtrooper's shoulder and kind of completes that pauldron look. Overall, it's a pretty solid accessory. Then, of course, our Sandtrooper does come with the standard issue blaster for most Imperial Stormtroopers, that being the E11 blaster carbine. Now, this one is a nice, more original trilogy-focused look. It does not have that flashlight attachment that a lot of the ones from the Mandalorian Stormtroopers have, and yeah, it's a fine gun. I mean, we've seen this plenty of times in the Black Series line. It's done in a nice dark gray, almost gunmetal color plastic, and I don't really have much else to say about it because we've seen it so many times in the Black Series. We do, however, get a new blaster with this figure, and to my knowledge, this is also the first time this blaster has ever been debuted in the Black Series line. This is the RT-97C heavy blaster rifle. So this is a rifle we actually see a Sandtrooper holding in A New Hope, so that's really cool here. It's got some really interesting proportions here, and I think it's done really, really nicely. Again, no weathering or paint apps on the blaster itself whatsoever, but it's got some nice detail here. Looks like lots of sculpted machinery. Definitely feels very realistic, and yeah, looks good. I'm very happy to have this accessory. Now we have the Sandtrooper. Now I know you've all been waiting for me to talk about this figure and give you my thoughts on my end of where I stand on this figure. So this being released as an A New Hope figure, A New Hope specific. A lot of people, a lot of collectors have expressed their distaste or frustrations with this figure being based on the Rogue One Stormtrooper and not the A New Hope Stormtrooper. And if you don't know the difference, you can look them up side by side. There are some big visual differences in the way that the armor is shaped, the way that the costume looks from A New Hope to the Rogue One Stormtrooper. Like I said, this one is on the Rogue One Stormtrooper, but there are some new parts to this guy that I will point out as we go over the review. Here's where I stand on this topic. I think that the original Orange Pauldron Sandtrooper does a much better job of giving you the look that you see on screen in A New Hope. However, I do think that this figure is still a fine figure to add to your collection. We all know George Lucas went to great lengths to change and manipulate the original trilogy, and we all know that he wishes he could have done things that obviously things like technology and budget limited in the original trilogy, and definitely the costume malfunctions that a lot of Stormtroopers had in A New Hope is one of them. This is your ideal Sandtrooper, one that has no costume malfunctions with like a raised brow above the visors there, and other things like that. I think for me this is fine, and if anything, this is a different trooper that has a different look that honestly helps fit a little bit better into your existing Sandtroopers because the armor's shaped a little bit differently. It keeps consistency if that's what you're looking for. But if you're like me and you like to have uniformity between your troopers, this idealized version based on the Rogue One Stormtrooper is completely fine for me as well. Make sure to let me know what you guys think about this whole debate. Are you happy with the look of this guy? Are you not? But we're going to start getting into the figure itself. So the armor color is not your stark white that they have with your regular Imperial Stormtroopers, and I think this is also a decision that Hasbro made that I agree with, where they went with this off-white, kind of more matte looking color. The Stormtroopers on Tatooine are going to be very battered from the sandy weather there, and I highly doubt that their armor would stay stark and pristine by the end of their mission, so this is completely fine for me too. I'll start at the helmet, but all throughout the armor you do have these very light paint applications that are meant to be kind of sand brushing from the deserts of Tatooine. I think it looks fine. It's not the best weathering I've ever seen in the Black Series, but it's also not something that I'm upset about either. This is a environment specific trooper, so for him to have pieces of the environment attached to his armor, that's fine by me. The helmet I think looks good. When they first revealed the 2020 Stormtrooper for the Mandalorian, I wasn't really a fan of the helmet. I thought it was a little too squished, like it was a little too short. This, I feel like being a little bit more elongated, looks really nice. So this Stormtrooper does have the black brow painted. He has the little gray parts over here and on top of the ear caps painted as well. The lenses are actually a very dark green, which is a great touch. I like when they do stuff like that because some Stormtroopers in A New Hope did have green lenses. Down here at the frown, you can see there is some gray and some black painted there, and then at the chin filters, you do also have some black and some silver and maybe some gray as well. And then over here you have these lines, these little tick marks are done in blue, which is accurate. And then on the back of the helmet, we have just a little bit more of that gray detail there. And so overall, I think the helmet looks great. The pauldron is also really nice. This is an overlay, so you could remove this from here if you wanted to. I should also mention there is a flesh-toned head underneath the Stormtrooper helmet, but you can't really do anything with that because it's glued down. You'd have to heat it up and remove it that way. The pauldron looks nice. I do not have the original Orange Pauldron Sandtrooper in my collection, believe it or not, so I'm really happy to have an Orange Pauldron Sandtrooper. I do still plan on getting the original one, but in the meantime, this will be a great filler. On top of the overlay, which is the pauldron, there is also the separate overlay that makes up the torso armor, the carapace, as we people in the 501st would call it, and that is what covers the basic torso underneath, which is done in black, and then you have the shoulder armor, which is on some O-ring systems here, which mean they're locked into the torso, and yeah, then you have the armor here for the hands, the forearms, the biceps. Everything looks good. A little bit of sand detail in the biceps, and looks like one of the forearms here, just the right one, has some of that same detail. And then we get down to the midsection here, and you'll see at the midsection just a little bit of that sandblasted weathering there. And this is one of the new parts about this Stormtrooper, is he does have these ammo pouches that are attached to the sides of his belt. These are done in black, and they do a great job of giving you more of a unique look to this trooper, while again keeping very consistent with the rest of the Imperial designs. And then of course down at the legs, it gets a little more plain, but we do actually have a new left lower leg. So the left lower leg has a little bit more of a hollow rhombus shape on the knee armor here, as opposed to the regular Imperial Stormtroopers where it's just a flat surface. And then of course the soles are painted in this really nice color. It's not quite gray, not quite green. I really like the color of the soles of those boots for some reason. But yeah, overall, I'd say the looks of this guy get the job done. He looks like an Imperial Sandtrooper in the idealized Rogue One look, and he'll look great with all my other Stormtroopers that are on this same body sculpt. Let's go ahead and cover articulation now. So this guy's going to feature a lot of the latest and greatest articulation for the Black Series, starting with the barbell jointed neck. So you're going to have a barbell joint that goes up into the head. There's another ball joint at the base of the neck there. You can get some decent range out of this, like some good down. You can also get some decent up as well, some good tilt, even with that added pauldron overlay there. You can still get some good tilt there, and of course your right and left. At the shoulders here, you do have a cut with the butterfly joint there. That can get you some really, really nice forward and back, helping you with two-handed poses and more dynamic posing. The shoulders also do feature their own hinge and swivel, so with that O-ring at the shoulders there, you can get up to the 90-degree mark, maybe just a little past it, and then you can swivel the shoulders a full 360 degrees. I do recommend, if you're going to do the full range of motion, you try to keep the shoulder armor with the rest of the arm, because sometimes that plastic can flex and, you know, you don't want to risk that breaking. We also have a deep cut single jointed elbow here, which is very, very nice with that range there. You can see I can get that well past the 90-degree mark. You also have a swivel at the top of the elbow there, and then at the wrists we have that hinge and swivel with the vertical hinge on the right hand there, and then a horizontal hinge on the left hand. We also have a ball joint at the midsection here, which is going to get you some great added range. Again, even with the added ammo pouches here, you can still get him to lean side to side with great ease. We've also got a ball joint here at the hips, which gets you some great range. That thigh armor really doesn't do anything to get in the way of bringing those legs forward, so that's awesome. But if it were to, you do have a thigh swivel, which is cleverly hidden underneath the thigh armor there, giving you some extra added range of articulation. And then we have deep cut single jointed knees here with a 90-degree bend. And then of course we have that swivel at the top of the knee. And then down here at the ankles here, we have that forward facing pin for rocker, as well as a hinge, which gets you just a little bit of forward, and it gets you some decent back as well. So overall, this is great articulation. This is pretty standard articulation for the Black Series these days, especially with newer figures. And I will say that while the newer Stormtrooper may not be exactly screen accurate to what we see on screen with the Sandtroopers in the original trilogy, I will say it does a great job of giving off a nice, clean, polished look without all those pinned joints. So let's get our Sandtrooper kitted out with his accessories. We'll start with the backpack here. You'll see we just stick that onto the back there, and you can know which side is the top by where the ammo pouch goes. That sits pretty nicely over the shoulder there. It kind of wants to float up a little bit, but you can kind of work it down and it'll sit pretty nicely, especially if you have it hugging up next to the helmet there. He can stand upright without it making him fall over and be too back heavy, so that's good. We'll start off with our E11 here, which fits into the right hand. Trigger finger fits into the trigger guard nicely. It's also going to pass the shake test too, which is good. Here we've got our Sandtrooper in a nice mid-stride pose, patrolling the streets of Mos Eisley. And here's a nice basic shooting pose for our Sandtrooper here. You can get him into some nice wide poses. He has a great center of gravity, even with that backpack on. Now we'll pose him up with the RT-97C Heavy Blaster. So the trigger finger has a little bit more of a difficult time fitting into that trigger guard, but it does work if you work the hand in there. And then obviously this one does pass the shake test as well. This being a heavy blaster and the way that it's shaped, I highly doubt this trooper would be raising it up to fire it, so I imagine more hip firing motions. And you can see I have a nice kneeling pose with this guy. And here I've got him in a nice one-legged running pose, rushing over to stop our heroes from getting into that piece of junk in the Mos Eisley Spaceport. And just for some quick comparisons here, on the left I do have one of the old Sandtroopers I was talking about earlier. This one I think is from the Blue Line packaging that came out back in 2014, I want to say. And then on the right here we have just a regular newer Imperial Stormtrooper. I think this one in particular is the Return of the Jedi 40th card back one, because he does have the black lenses on the helmet. But yeah, I feel like all these troopers really do blend in a lot better than a lot of people say they do. I think that the legs on the older one are pretty skinny, and I'm not a fan of the pin double joints. I prefer the deep cut single hinges that the newer figures have. So I feel like even with the differences though, all these figures could look really nice together in a display. So overall, guys, I think this is a fun figure. I really enjoy this one, considering it's been a really long time since a Sandtrooper has been released in the Black Series, and considering that it's on the newer Articulation, and considering I really like Stormtroopers, I'm all in on this. I think you should definitely get it. I think you'll enjoy this figure a lot. Is it the best figure the Black Series has ever made? No, of course not, but I think it's a great figure regardless, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with it if you pick it up. I'm a big fan of the inclusion of the new blaster as well. I think that for me is a highlight of this release. I really like getting new blasters in the line, and it really helps me with a case like mine where I just have a shelf full of Imperial Stormtrooper variants to just give a little bit more variety to them. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion, for just 99 cents a month. It gives you access to exclusive badges, priority replies in my comments section, and you get to vote on what I review next for the channel, in addition to seeing all the reviews early. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you could head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. 1-2, pick a target. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody, cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit.